Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Human SOS Show. We're on episode 65. Wow, seems like yesterday, Anton. And today we're going to talk about mindset. It's all part of a series that we're doing covering some key components of us. And we look forward to it. So, Anton, I'm going to let you open it up and we'll get moving right along.
Yeah, welcome everybody. Before we jump in and get into the conversation, today's a little bit shorter. We're only going to be about 30 minutes. I have to jump off. I don't know if maybe Kevin stays on if you guys have questions. But what we're going to talk about is mindset. I want you to first let us know where you're joining from, and then we'll dive into it. But I apologize, no deck today. Normally we have like a PowerPoint deck or, a little bit visual representation. I just got back 30 minutes ago from a 24-hour drive from Seattle to Denver. So I didn't get my deck done. I was a bad boy and I didn't prepare it. No, it was an emergency trip. So it kind of worked out over the weekend. I wasn't like gone for the 4th. It was not that kind of trip. But we're talking about our system, Human SOS. This is what the show is about. And it's meant to really help leaders, specifically HR leaders, to create humanly sustainable ecosystems, organizational ecosystems within the workplace. And that's kind of what we call it. We believe that it's all connected, right? Everything is under this one connected ecosystem, and it kind of traps everything inside of it. And we talk a lot about stress and how stress can come in. And unless we're intentional about it, stress isn't just going to come out because it's contained within that ecosystem. And what we're talking about is different components of Human SOS. So far, we've been tackling the life component because we have health, life, and kind of work leadership components. And within life, we've discussed vision, which is kind of the priority. We got to set that North Star, as Kevin likes to call it. We discussed how it helps us navigate through the jungle of life, through the jungle of work, and we're able to peek above the tree line, see where that distant vision is, and get reoriented to it. Then we discussed values, and we talked about, why values are important, how to set them, what they are, and things like that. And now we're getting into mindset. I actually said we were a little backwards. We should have done beliefs first, but we'll talk about mindset. Next week, we'll explain why that's the case. But why is mindset, first of all, connect to stress, right? Why is that so important? Well, I'll tell you this right out the gates. It's your perception of the stress you're experiencing, your perception of the situation is half the battle to your body on how it responds. If you say, oh my goodness, this is awful, right? This is just terrible. I cannot believe this is happening to me. And you have this really poor perspective, poor mindset. You're going to feel the pain of that a lot more than if exact same circumstance happened. But you go, you know what? This isn't that bad. There's people in the world who have it way worse than me, or I've been through 10 times worse than this. This is just a bump in the road. I'll get through it. You're going to experience, not just mentally, chemically, a completely different response for your body. Right? What are your thoughts on just opening up about mindset? I know you had a poll and something.
Yeah, one thing is that I'm not sure that in general we're on the same page of understanding mindset in general, and something that is, the older I get, theoretically a little bit wiser. One of the things I am concerned with is that we are needing to do better at communicating, find common ground on words and phrases and concepts. And so I just think that that's important. But when you were talking, one of the things comes to mind is mindset is what we filter everything through. And if it is, what's the old saying? If you think it's negative, it's negative. If you think it's positive, it's positive. It will be positive, and it goes to so much to affect how we perceive and react and respond to what's going on around us. And so, having a healthy, solid mindset becomes a big priority because it will, in fact, in extreme cases, it will defeat us and even cause us to have a remarkable set of problems.
Yeah, mindset is something that is, I also use the word perspective because in a way that's kind of what it is. It's how we see the situation. but it's a little bit deeper than just perspective, because it's something that we should have worked on. It's something that we should have built from our values and our beliefs and our vision, our mindset. That's the problem. I see a lot of people talk the talk, and I'm going to be a little candid right now, folks. I see a lot of people talk the talk about mindset. They read the books. They read the book Mindset, maybe. I can't remember who wrote that. A great writer. She wrote a great book. But that's where the concept of growth mindset came in, and fixed mindset. And everybody's really good at regurgitating that information and saying, oh, I got a growth mindset or this and that. And it's become such a popular topic. But when I look at people and daily and I see them live their life, I'm going to challenge and say that most people don't have a set and a great mindset. You always have a mindset. It's just are you in control of it? And is it set in the way that aligns to what you want to accomplish? Or is it just something that flowed into your head at that time, or perhaps somebody else put it into your head at that time?
Yeah, what comes to my mind as we're talking about it, Anton, and it just kind of and I sound like I'm a broken record, and I apologize if it seems that way, but we approach these concepts, mindset, whatever, primarily on a knowledge basis. You just said we read the books, we do all that, and then we learn the lingo. We may apply a formula, and we consider that as we have accomplished mindset. And the problem is that mindset done well has to go beyond just knowing about it. Okay, it has to be considered in our life experience. It has to be a part of understanding. And I again suggest that if we want to have the best possible mindset, it should be approached in the context of wisdom. And
what do you mean by that?
Well, just that as we approach mindset, for example, if we base it just on what we read and information we intake right now, current environment, we're going to have a crappy mindset. I'm sorry, but if you look at what's going on around us, we are being fed information, and most of it is negative and really not a good approach to mindset. And so in order to get a good mindset, part of wisdom is stepping back and looking at things in a bigger context outside of ourselves. And if we don't approach our mindset in that fashion, we're going to be subject to whatever we're feeding into our lives, what we're exposing ourselves to. And right now, in most cases, it's not real good.
For sure, man. And, people, I will touch on the growth and the fixed mindset, because it is a valid point. It's not just a term that doesn't make sense. It really is true. So let's start with that, because I think in order for people to set their mindset, they have to understand that they can change their mindset. There's a concept called neuroplasticity, right? Neuroplasticity is something that, psychologists and neuro folks figured out, that our brain is really not staying the same throughout our life. Our brain continues to evolve into the later years, and it can get better, it can get worse, but what it can do is it can be more positive or it could be more negative, right? And it can be wired to be more positive, but that's not natural, right? We are more natural to be negative. It takes work to rewire your brain to be a naturally positive, or to be a positive kind of mindset. Why? Because survival is the number one thing for our brain. Positivity does not lead to survival, because positivity is kind of that abundance view. It's lack of fear. It's risk taking. It's all those things. Well, that doesn't lead to survival. Risk aversion, right? Avoiding social gatherings, those kind of things. That's what our brain wants to do, because it fears that something bad's going to happen. So we have to be conscious about it and stop being so limbic and in our lizard brain, and get to a prefrontal cortex where we realize that we control our thoughts. I just read a book. It's called Unf Yourself. The word F word. I just don't want to say it on our show. It's a great book. It's the same author that wrote the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. And it's a great author. He's a coach. And he just talks about this neuroplasticity concept, and he talks about our internal monologues and how those create our mindsets. We're going to talk about internal messages 2 weeks from now, because we'll talk about values next, and then we'll talk about internal messaging after that, because that'll finish up our kind of identity component of our life pillar. But, we do so much bad for our mindset all the time because we don't pay attention to our narrative. We don't pay attention to the words we choose when we communicate with ourselves or we communicate with others. I am guilty of this. I deflect compliments all the time, and I self-deprecate. Those are awful things. I do them. Yep, Kevin, I know we're both guilty there. I do them for good reasons in my head. I go, I don't want to seem cocky, and I know I naturally have that kind of confidence that sometimes could be confused as cockiness. So I self-deprecate all the time, or I'll just deflect compliments, and that's not good. Because whether I realize it or not, subconsciously, I'm admitting to myself that those things are not true. I don't deserve them. I'm not warranted for them. And then I'm going to carry that inside. And he said it, and I've known this already too, but 95% of our action is subconscious, right? 95% of everything we do in our everyday life is done subconsciously. This is why you don't think about turning on a blink, or you don't think about how you're getting to work. It's funny too, because I drive my kid to soccer practice all the time. And just last month, her place changed. She made it to a different team, and you have to go past the light that I normally turn. For 2 weeks straight, you see her face really excited right before we get there, because she gets to correct dad, because she knows that dad's going to forget, and he's going to make the turn he's used to making. And she's going to say, Daddy, we're not going there. And then feel really good that she made the correction. Well, she's been doing that because my mind is on that autopilot. But that's not just with actions. That's also with thoughts. That's also with mindset. That's also with all those other things. So, like I said, we'll deep dive into internal communication, but just understand your mindset drives that 95% subconscious things that happen, right? And you want to make sure you kind of know what that is. Ask yourself right now, what's my mindset? Have you defined it? Like, do you have kind of a set approach? And it's not going to be like, okay, I've had it like a vision where it's a statement. You have to, it's a situational thing. Me and Kevin were talking about this before we jumped on. It works backwards. So your vision shouldn't change. Like, your vision should be, you set that vision, and that's your life vision. Like, that's, if you really got a good one and you really figured out, that thing is set in stone. Then your values you grow into. Your values you slowly grow into. And then at that point, they shouldn't change either. Like, you shouldn't just be changing your values all the time. Beliefs, once again, you grow into, but they're a little bit more loose than values. They may adapt a little bit. You have to shift them sometimes when new information, new people are introduced, whatever it is. And then mindset is very situational, because there's so many different components that play a factor in it, but it still has to come back to the first three, and that's where it comes out of.
Welcome, Isaac. Isaac's one of our connections. It's out there. Appreciate you being able to jump in. He's in a different time zone and over in Israel, so it's a challenge, but glad to have you, Isaac. Yeah.
Isaac's in Israel?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was in Israel. For some reason, I thought Isaac was in New York. I don't know why. Cool.
No,
I don't know why
Isaac is in. But wow, one of the things I think that a mistake that we make in regards to mindset is we have forgotten an old time concept, and that is garbage in, garbage out. And if you take a computer and you put bad programming in it, if it will function at all, it's going to function incorrectly, inefficiently, and so on. And in some regards, and I hesitate to go too far into this, but in some regards, our brain has computer type elements to it. And if we are not watching what we put into our brain, our mind, and filtering it, then we are going to have a crappy mindset. Being again, as a Christian believer, one of the things we're told is to guard our mind. It's an old principle, but we're seeing the byproduct of throwing it out the window because there was a period of time culturally that to be current, or I don't know what phrase you want to use, you were supposed to be open-minded. And the way people approach that is that you take in any and everything out there without any discretion, and we have culturally polluted our minds. I mean, we just don't guard what we allow to come in, and as that goes in, and you may be able to answer this, Anton. I've always understood that we cannot erase our memories. We can only create memories that are stronger. So our mind, once we take that information in, it's there. It's not going anywhere, except when you're like me and you start getting older. It may be all there, but it's harder to find. But anyway, the point is that what we choose to be the dominant input will be the dominant effect. So if we're not filtering and guarding and being wise in what we let in, our mindset's going to stink. And then the results that go with it are going to stink.
We have to replace the negative with the positive. If you don't replace, there's a void that will eventually be filled back in with the negative. Like I said, our mind is predisposed to the negative. So we have to consciously work on replacing things with a positive mindset, positive way of interpreting our scenario, situation, perspective, whatever you want to say. But the thing is, you mentioned that we have to, people wanting us to accept everybody's mindset, and it seems like everybody's opinion right now is the right thing, and except for your own. And that's a dangerous game to play. I had a deep discussion with my sister and my brother-in-law about this, and this individualization thing that we're playing. It's good, but don't force other people to bend their individualism to accommodate yours. And that's where I see people's mindsets shift, because somebody else is forcing them to. Somebody else is saying that, no, this is the wrong way of thinking. Well, no, this way of thinking aligns with my vision, aligns with my values, aligns with my beliefs. So yeah, I'm going to continue to act on that. I don't care. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't care if you disagree with that. I love you. But if this is in alignment with those other things, you best believe I'm not moving. Like, I'm going to be a stubborn, individual and just put my foot down and hold firm. And the more I take care of my stress, the more I take care of this really broad concept of stress that we talk about, the more likely I am to put my foot down and hold firm. The less I take care of my stress, then I'm just like, I'm not going to bother with this. I'm just going to bend it this one time to accommodate this person, because I don't want to fight. I don't want to. Well, guess what, guys? If your mindset is set and somebody's going against it and it truly is correct to you, you may have to fight. And I don't mean physically, but I mean like be stubborn about it and stand up to it. Because otherwise, what are you really doing in life? If anybody can shift your direction, do you truly have vision, values, belief, and a set mindset? I don't believe so.
Well, and that's why, we talk about vision done correctly is something that doesn't change, because it helps anchor us in life storms. Because just in case this is newsflash to anybody, we're going to have storms in life. And the key is, can we get through and survive them? And the good news is, done well, yes. In fact, we are designed to go through them and survive them. And when it comes to our values, although we grow into them, again, we need to make sure as we consider our values that they are core essential values, because those are the ones that, for someone to change it, it's going to take an awful lot. And it's not going to be lightly done. It's not going to necessarily be done just reading a quote, reading even a book. If your values change by reading just a book or something, your values are not well founded for you, and that's unhealthy for you. And then as we progress along, you become more flexible. And so it goes back, I think, of a book that I read on balance that affected my whole perspective on balance. And that is the balance is being very solid in what is core, what is important, and we just don't give. And if we have to, taken to an extreme, if we have to die on that hill to defend those things, we will do it. But equally to the balance of that, if it's not part of that, then we need to be equally liberal or open to growing and changing and learning. And that is where we ultimately can get our mindset in the best place, is that we have our anchor that we're not going to be moved from, but in the same time, we are willing to learn and grow and change in other ways. And that's why I'm more and more I'm seeing, people are resistant to change. And it's not because they just don't like change. It's because they, for them, a change goes to their whole core. And that's the problem. Nobody wants to change at the core. We want a solid anchor about us so that we can, that's the way we're designed. I'm big on design, and we are designed to have an anchor point in our life. And if that's not sure, then we're going to run away from any kind of change because it will potentially destroy us in our minds. Not accurate, but the way we perceive it. Welcome, Abdul. Glad to have you. Let us know where you're joining from, please. That'd be great. Remember, if you've got questions, comments, jump in here. We're kind of going a little more free rein today than we usually do. And so this is a especially good opportunity to offer comments, questions, and so on. So go ahead, Anton.
It's and you're right. I think that people are having to change at the core too much because they didn't set their core properly.
Right.
One of the things that I encourage people to do when it comes down to mindset, vision, values, beliefs, doesn't matter, is you need a broad perspective. You need to gain as much possible perspective from as many different corners of the world, from as many different societies, people, situations, environments, as many as you possibly can. And then see what of all of this fits. Because if all I'm looking when I'm trying to set my mindset is just a tiny little piece and I'm ignoring the rest of this perspective, well, the minute this perspective is introduced to me, it's going to rock my core because it's going to make me realize, wow, I didn't see that. And you're going to constantly be doing that. So this is why coaching is so good. Coaching helps you to really explore really get wide, because we diverge. When we're coaches, the first thing that we do when we coach is we diverge. We try to get as broad as we can before we converge back in on reality, on the situation, whatever it is. But that divergence, that exploration phase is so key that most people don't spend enough time on. There's a reason when I say, when you're building your life design and when you're building all these pieces, no less than a full day in solitude by yourself with regular check-ins after that to make sure that everything's still aligned and everything the way that it should be. Because if we're changing, it should be because we realize something, not because somebody's forcing us to do something. A lot of times, if people consciously or subconsciously, people push you in a direction, whether it's a good direction, whether it's a bad direction, but it's not your direction. And this is where I'm going to tell people and challenge you: stop it. Stop letting people do that. It's the greatest, it's the greatest limiter to potential, because you're constantly going in so many different places that you don't stay towards the avenue to the vision. Nobody said it's a straight line. Nobody's promising you a straight line. But what I want you to focus on is veer off the path as little as possible and correct as soon as possible to get back on track. But if other people are constantly shifting your mindset, are constantly, poking holes in your life and your beliefs and things like that, it's going to be really tough. And that's going to happen if you didn't spend enough time getting a broad perspective before you said it.
Well, and I'm sitting here thinking through that if you are tempted to change your vision, your core values in a given circumstance, you're violating a principle there in doing so. During those times is the last setting we need to consider those kinds of changes. Because again, most of the time, those situations are not life and death situations. They do not require an immediate response decision. I don't care how much pressure people put on you. If it is a challenge to your core values, your vision, and if it's going to remarkably affect your mindset, especially in a negative fashion, then is not the time. Then is not the time to consider those changes. And the other thing came to mind, Anton, is back when I started my podcast back in January, I felt compelled to throw out a challenge. And what I am coming to realize as we're talking is this challenge is a principle of a way to adjust our mindset correctly. And that is to disconnect, okay? Get away from all the noise, the distractions, whatever that looks like. And frankly, for many of us, it is our exposure to media. It is just a big problem. Then, along with disconnecting, we observe, okay? Observe inwardly and observe outwardly. And as we observe outwardly, look around us, but also, like you mentioned, look globally. And then the last part is the way I phrased it was seek and gain wisdom. In other words, put all this together in the context of what you have observed while you're not being distracted. Mm-hmm. And then you begin to get wisdom in how to use what you are learning, what you are understanding. And one of the key things, and I share this each episode with the podcast, is that the difference between knowledge and understanding and wisdom is that perspective that can include, or has to include, outside of ourselves and outside of our own world and just what's in it for me. And
Brother,
so
I have to run. I apologize. I'll let you close it out, but I just want to leave the audience with this. And a lot of times people use a lot of emotion to try to create a mindset. That's not the thing to do.
No.
Mindset is a logical thing. Remember, like I told you, it doesn't live in our limbic lizard brain. That's where emotion resides. It lives in prefrontal cortex. So we have to be logical. I love what you said. When we become emotional and when our world is rocked and we try to change things in that moment, no, that's when you shouldn't be changing anything. Reflect, pay attention, take notes, write down what's going on. So that way, when you get out of that emotional state, you can come back and revisit and say, was that circumstantial? Was that actually something within my mindset that needed to be worked on? But ultimately be logical. But I got to run, man. I'll catch up with you later.
Take care, brother. I'll go ahead and hang around a bit with everyone. If you would like to continue, we'll have a conversation. And one thing that I did want to share is that in the conversation about mindset is that we need to really understand and come to some consensus about mindset. Is something we talk about a great deal. We've got some great folks out there in social media that really work on mindset. And but what that means to us is not clear. And evidence of that I'll show. And I know this, some would say this is not scientific in nature, and I appreciate that. But at a minimum, it certainly represents some perspective that's out there. So at least given the opportunity. But this poll that I did, I wanted to understand, because I have had some variation on my opinion of whether mindset and attitude were the same. So I put it out there. I want to learn and hopefully help others learn. But as you can see, that there is not a clear understanding of the difference, yet we all talk about the importance of mindset and attitude. And so I think one of the things that we can do well for ourselves is to begin to understand if there's a difference and what is the difference between mindset and attitude. And just so you'll know, this is the representation of this was about 20. Let's see, I believe that was about 25 or 30,000 views. So again, it's got some broad perspective in it. So as we're continuing on, I would be curious your perspective on what mindset is, and if what I mentioned of using a principle of disconnect, observe, and seek wisdom in regards to things is a way to really adjust our mindset. And how key is it to you in your life? Does it factor? Does it affect? Be curious to get your feedback there. But as Anton shared, one thing that is true, you can call it mindset, call it attitude, call it whatever you want, but whatever that is affects everything else that we do. It becomes the filter that we take in everything and make suggestions, adjustments, whatever in our life. And the question is it a healthy mindset? Anton shared something that we both tend to do, and that is someone tries to pay a compliment and either respond with self-deprecation or deflect it, when in reality, there is a place in regards to that because of humility, but many times it's not about humility, it's about disbelief and uncertainty that we are indeed worthy of that compliment. And I know that I am still trying to learn in that regard how to just say thank you, because whether we see it in that fashion, there is somebody that apparently thinks that we're accomplished at something and worthy of a compliment. And so at a minimum, be gracious and consider it. And then if you want to really challenge and your mindset on it, then nothing wrong with at the right time to go through and evaluate it and consider it. And another point that Anton made is that mindset adjustment doesn't need to happen in the moment. It doesn't need to be done as an emotional response. It needs to be something that we have considered in light of principle, in light of values, in light of many things, without making quick adjustments there. So any questions from you as an audience? Want to hear your thoughts. By the way, those of you that would normally be a part of our show, I have to apologize because in my haste to set up the event on LinkedIn, I was made an error in the date time, and I know it confused some people. And so I apologize for that. And I tried to correct it this morning. So hopefully people understood, and hopefully people will be able to find and join in. But this whole thing of mindset, and as Anton mentioned, mindset related to stress. If we have an unhealthy mindset, we can have all the outward appearances of being quote unquote successful, or we can have what by most would be considered the ideal life. But if our mindset is not where it needs to be, we are going to be miserable. In fact, I believe this is a factor in why we see people, especially very public personalities, that seemingly have it all, and yet they are depressed and even at times commit suicide. And it becomes very public, and we all kind of go, wow, I would have never thought that of that person. And I think a lot of it goes to an unhealthy mindset, because we can have all the blessings and the good and all that we want, but if our mindset is unhealthy, we're never going to see the value in it. And so it is such a key component to get our mindset where it needs to be, and go through the process of establishing that. And also, from a stress standpoint, if our mindset is bad, even when good things happen, we struggle internally, and that's increasing our stress levels. When we're at conflict inside with who we want to be, need to be, and who we are, that is stressful, because when that happens, you'll see people with what we call imposter syndrome and so on. So really encourage you to consider mindset and approach your mindset in a healthy fashion using good principles. And I'll, again, remind you of the one that I offered back in January as a way to really evaluate and consider your mindset and then adjust it if needed. And that is to take time to disconnect from distractions in our life. And those will vary depending on the person. One that is another one, I mentioned media, social media, news media. Another one that is a struggle for most everybody now is our technology. And now, don't misunderstand me. I love my technology as much as anyone, partly because of the efficiencies, and I appreciate that. But our technology, unfortunately, is taking over our lives in some cases, and that is a distraction for us to really be able to consider healthy mindset, healthy narratives, and so on. So the first step in that process towards considering your mindset of disconnecting from distractions, whatever those are, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a permanent disconnect, but it may take time, a season, or even just a day or two, depends on the person. But get that out of your mind, get it where you're not cluttered. The second step is take time to observe. And the key word there is, in observing, is to not be emotional with it. Because when we're emotional, we don't observe, we react. So during this process, take the time to observe. Look around, see what you see, hear what you hear, and consider them. And even to a point, if it's something that you've had a prior mindset of, consider the possibility that you were maybe incorrect, partially wrong, whatever, and evaluate. So observe, really take things in. And I suggest, in addition to your own observation by yourself, that this is a place where quite often a coach or a mentor comes in to help you. Because when we observe and our mindset's unhealthy, it's going to affect how we observe. And so sometimes we need someone from the outside to come in and help us with those perspectives and help us to really separate what is a perception to what is reality. And so during that observation phase, it should be something that you consider and that you make a very focused effort to accomplish. And then the last part is, as you observe these things, is to think big picture. Look outside of yourself, your own needs, and so on. And again, I'm not suggesting that we do what Anton and I were talking about, self-deprecate, or to even sacrifice who we are. But what we need to do, though, is consider these things, whatever we're observing outside of our own world and our own self-interest. Because when we do that, we get new perspective, and that includes considering other people. Because part of mindset, and this is an important thing to remember, is mindset factors into relationships. And one thing to consider may be a symptom of an unhealthy mindset that in us is that we have unhealthy relationships. If we're having trouble with those relationships, it may point that we need to do some mindset evaluation, if you will. And I'll even share that I've been through that process because of relationship, and this goes back a number of years, but it became an important part of my journey. And that was, I had certain types of people that I had difficulty relating to and tended to react to. And as I began to learn and observe it, my mindset changed. And it affected me to a point that it changed my perspective, my perception, and it greatly affected the filter by which I would see other people and other situations. And it then changed my behaviors. In fact, this situation that I'm thinking of in my past, along with the relationship challenge, it caused me a great deal of stress. And part of the reason that I began to really look at it was because of that stress. This would happen to be a relationship at work where this one individual that represented the personality type that I struggled with, we had to work together. It was part of what we did. But every time we were together, it became stressful because we could not share that moment, that time, and do so without debate, disagreement, and even argument. And so all of this goes back to understanding and having healthy mindset. And it started a journey for me in regards to evaluating my mindset and understanding that. And all. So again, real important that we all take the time to consider mindset and how it factors into what's going on around us. By the way, if you're curious about this, what I'm sharing about, you can read the article on LinkedIn. Go to my profile and look at my articles. It's the one that's called The Cocky Rooster. And it's this personal story about my having to back up and revisit a mindset, along with some other issues and things that affected me in such a way that I had trouble relating. So back to the original comment, that symptom of a problem mindset is that we have difficulty in relationships. And so, there are other symptoms of a mindset problem. We talked about stress. We talk about relationship. Mindset also will affect us in how we eat and behave and how we take care of ourselves, because if we have an unhealthy mindset, for example, some people with unhealthy mindset will overeat as a way to try to compensate. And that's not everybody that overeats that's the issue, but it can certainly be a symptom of a mindset problem. And people that struggle with their work and not being able to keep a job, part of the problem there could be that it is a mindset problem. We get into a job situation and we feel like we don't fit in and we aren't a part. Well, maybe it is not about the job, but it's about our mindset in regards to the job. So these are all symptoms of mindset challenges that we face, and the value and importance to addressing them from a number of factors. And of course, the perspective that we offer as part of what we talk about is stress levels. And so as we begin to adjust our mindset, it helps us to be able to manage our stress. When the goal isn't to eliminate stress, it is to manage it because it's necessary. So, number of different factors. And I hope that you will take away today something to think about in terms of mindset and consider it. One of the things that we do as Prospective Force is to be able to come in and be that outside influence to help you be able to consider if there's a mindset issue, because what we do, and we are good at it, is to get to the root of problems with people. And so consider it. Isaac, thanks. I appreciate you being able to stop in for a bit, and God bless you, my friend, and hope you can come back and join us another time. So consider that if you or your organization has a mindset problem, that we are prepared to help come in and help you with that. We even, and this will help you evaluate mindset also, we have an assessment that we offer to everyone free. It's through our website, www.prospectiveforce.com. And there it says take the assessment, and it will allow you to take a 12 statement assessment. It's not even really questions, it's you evaluating yourself against these statements. And then once you get that, you'll receive some score information, and then you have the option, if you like, to be able to take the full assessment for free, and it's 60 statements that you evaluate. And at the end of the day, part of what you walk away with is considering areas in your life that are most likely creating stress in your life, and that you might need some help managing that stress. And it will, in fact, offer perspective on your mindset as you look at it. And our ultimate goal is to be able to help build for all of us a healthy, human, sustainable organizational system. And that, again, applies to us individually. It also fits organizations, because what we're seeing today in our companies or organizations is unhealthy mindset and an unsustainable situation for the people involved. And that's a part of the challenge that we're watching and seeing unfold around us with our current workforce and our current employment situation and so on. A lot of different factors here. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Unless there is a question or comment you would like me to address, then I'm going to sign off, and I will encourage you to join us next week. We're always on Tuesdays, okay, and it's always at 11 o'clock Eastern. And just to translate that a bit for different audiences, that's 9 o'clock Anton's time, which is Mountain Daylight Time. It is and for our friends in India who quite often join us, it is a 9.5 hours difference. And at that point, it puts your time at 8:30. And I believe in the European geography that it is about, I believe, 4 or 4:30. So give you an idea when we are always here. Doesn't cost you to attend. You don't even have to register to attend. You just go to either YouTube, the Prospective Force YouTube channel, the Prospective Force Facebook page, or to my profile, and you can find us live there to be able to join in. So everyone have an amazing week. God bless. I hope that you can begin to consider your mindset. And if it is unhealthy, look at ways to help it become healthy. And if you need our help, reach out to Anton or I on LinkedIn or through our website, and we're happy to follow up with you. So thank you, everyone. See you next week. God bless and be well.